Welcome back in. This is Priority Talk Radio. Greg Davis with you for this radio program, audio podcast, and video podcast. You can find this in all formats. We are doing a very special sit-down with Les Bernal, who is the National Director for Stop Predatory Gambling, revealing the truth behind gambling operations. And we have spent, we've been talking now for about an hour or so about this issue, and in a broad way, but also trying to alert and educate us how these issues can and will affect Alabama. And so Les is an expert on these issues as much as anyone can ever be, I think, on our side of these issues, exposing the predatory nature of gambling. And so if we're trying to take these kind of subject by subject, topic by topic, so go back and find the past conversations, these past segments, to get full up to speed. But as we begin this conversation, let's talk about casinos. We just got through talking about the video bingo machines and slot machines, and oftentimes, of course, we will see those in a state that's legalized gambling and legalized casinos. We'll see those machines in casinos. So talk to us about casinos. Everybody acts like these are just wonderful tourist destinations and brings in all this out-of-state money, and it's all just wonderful and great. In Alabama, we have 3 legal casinos. They are on Porch Creek. Indians run those. Those are federal issues. Not much we can do about them. They can't use slot machines or do table games. It's kind of a neutered casino, but it certainly has the casino atmosphere. Mm-hmm. They're not hardcore casinos, I would say. But if we were to legalize casinos in the state and say, were we to add 5, 6, 7, 8 more casinos across the state of Alabama, what would that look like? What would happen? What happens in other states?
Sure. So it's important to understand, like, what we don't need to speculate what casinos will look like in Alabama, because you have dozens of states now in this country that have embraced this failed public policy. Like, the experiment with casinos has failed, okay? And that's why there's no grassroots movement for casinos here in Georgia. In Alabama, it's being driven by these powerful financial interests. And I mentioned Georgia because at the same time, Georgia is also being lobbied for casinos. So, it's all being driven by the industry.
So there's no community, there's no county that's really just out there saying, please build us a casino here in our county.
Yeah,
that's what you mean by grassroots.
Yeah, you might have county officials. I'm talking about citizens.
Right.
Yeah, county officials, they want the money. So any public officials, it's driven by greed. So
but the people that live in a county, a casino is seen as like a dump or a landfill.
That's right. That's right.
If you're going to have one, don't build it near me.
Yeah, or like nuclear waste.
But it's thought of in the same way of, hey, if you're going to have one, I don't want it near my house.
Yeah. But one kind of story I love to tell is in a state like New Jersey, which has bet as big on casinos as any state in this country, and also it's a huge predatory gambling state. So in a state like New Jersey, this is just a recent poll by Quinnipiac University, okay, has said 62% of citizens said casino gambling has not been good for the state. Okay, that's almost a supermajority.
62%.
62%. Okay. And that they legalized casinos in New Jersey in 1976. So this isn't like, some flyby. This is like after a long history now.
A generation.
A generation of people that they have concluded that they have not been good for the state. Okay. And the same poll also highlighted that 60% also believe gambling hasn't been beneficial for Atlantic City. So the whole logic behind bringing casinos in, well, we want the money, it's going to rebuild Atlantic City, right? So over the last 40 years, billions and billions of dollars have been lost in Atlantic City. All right, yet more than 2 to 1 in New Jersey, people say it's not been the magic bullet was promised. Okay, today the poverty rate in Atlantic City is higher 40 years later after bringing in casinos. How is that possible, Greg? How is it possible with billions of dollars being lost in that community that somehow the poverty rate in Atlantic City is higher? And the reason why that's the case is, which underscores this whole narrative we've been talking about for the last hour, is that this whole public policy has failed. It's a big con. The economic impact of a casino is the equivalent of taking out a $100 bill out of your wallet, throwing it into the street, and paying somebody a minimum wage to pick it up. It's a sterile transfer of wealth from millions of people's pockets into the handful of a very wealthy few. And that's why these billionaires lobby relentlessly for it here in Alabama and elsewhere for these extreme forms of gambling. Okay? This is not something that benefits the public. All right, so people need to understand that. So that's the heart of this.
Besides people losing their money, what other negative factors come along with casinos? I mean, obviously, people go there, they lose their money. Even if they win, they've already lost more than they ever win. You know, you lose in the long run, certainly.
Yeah. So casinos, just like we talk about Atlantic City. So one major thing is it again creates more poverty. Casinos create poverty. Mm-hmm. They increase taxes for the rest of the people who don't gamble, because who do you think pays for all the social services for all the money that people lose? It increases divorce rates because one of the spouse will go out and lose the family paycheck or the family savings or the kid's college retirement fund. So it creates divorce, which ultimately leads to far more family dysfunction in society. Leads to an incredible amount of addiction. Like there's no question that the closer you live to a casino, the addiction rates go up, right? Because before, like, maybe you travel to a casino. If you say you're a gambler, but you go to a casino once or twice a year, now instead of going once or twice a year, the business model for regional casinos is people coming to a casino 5 to 6 times a week.
That's so funny that you say that, because I just had a legislator tell me that same thing. I won't name them because I try to keep those conversations private. He said he has a friend. They're in South Alabama. He has a friend. He gambles, and he says gambles big when he goes on vacation, but only when he goes on vacation. He goes to casinos. But his friend had told him, if there was a casino nearby, I would be there all the time. Right. He knows that he would be.
Yeah, you go after work instead of going in the gym. Like people maybe grab a cup of coffee in the morning. Like those are habits that usually are healthy for people. Here's an example where, like, you put in a local casino. You have a tough day at work. You have a fight with your wife. You just lost your spouse, whatever it may be. You go to the casino, they treat you like a king or queen, as long as you're losing money. Like, you start going there every day after work, or you skip work and just keep going to the casino. Stay up all night.
And we have common friends who have lived that life.
Yeah.
You tell that from knowing people that's happened to them.
Yeah, but this is the casino executives openly acknowledge that their business model for these regional casinos, it's people coming 5 to 6 times a week.
Yeah, and they pray you in. Tell me how because they have concierge services. They'll call you at work.
Yeah. Well,
hey, are you coming tonight? Hey, I'll have dinner for you. I'll have a girl here for you.
It's very similar to the word. Most of your listeners know what the word parasite means. It's a parasite. So the formal term that the casino uses is a host. They assign a host to you. Yeah. Okay. And what they do is they call you. Hey, Greg, we haven't seen you this week. Come on down. I'll give you $50 worth of free slots play. Yep. Or I'll give you down $50 worth of free dinner, because they know they track your play, because you play with a consumer card in the machine, so they know how fast you play the machines, or how much you wager at 21 on a regular basis, how long you'll play for an evening or during the day. They know what your price point is, how much you wager on each spin or each hand, and so they will encourage you to keep, because they know for every half an hour, every hour you sit in front of a slot machine or at a blackjack table or a craps table, they know how much you'll lose. And so the goal is to keep you coming back. Again, the theme of play to extinction. The whole marketing thing is, how do I get this person to play until all their money is gone? What
about prostitution, human trafficking?
All that. Casinos and money laundering go hand in hand. So if you're in a business has some kind of illegal aspect to it, drug running, immigrant trafficking, human sex trafficking, they love the introduction of casinos, because you have all this cash that you need to launder. So money laundering in casinos, they're married at the hip. You go into a casino, the casino doesn't have to report more than 10 grand of winnings. So I don't have to identify you unless you have more than 10 grand. So I go in with 9 grand of cash, I push it through the slot machines, and then I get a ticket that says I have $8,900 of winnings. I go to the cash out window, and now I get to pay taxes on that. Like, so yes, I'm paying taxes on it, but now I've washed all that money. I can report it as gambling winnings.
Yep.
And so I can put that into real estate, any other stock market, any other business that I want to do. You know, and so that's what people need to understand. And speaking of the stock market, I think it's a critical point for many of your people to understand, including legislators, because there's a lot of pretenders of knowledge who say, well, the stock market's gambling, Greg.
No.
The stock market and gambling, commercialized gambling, are 180 degrees different. If you take $1,000 and you put it into a Standard & Poor's 500 index fund and you leave it there over 20 years, that money is going to grow exponentially over the course of that 20 years. You're going to have a lot more money left over. You're building wealth slowly. That's called investing. Go take that $1,000 and go buy $1,000 worth of $50 scratch-off tickets, or put $1,000 into slot machines. Like, instead of making you money over the long term, it's a mathematical certainty that over the long term you're going to lose every last dollar of that. So it couldn't be, so that's speculation. So people who do day trading or gamble on, do derivatives trading, like a form of that's speculation. That's a form of gambling. But investing in a stock, I own a piece of a company.
Yeah.
Nothing could be further from the truth.
Well, other people can win along with you in the stock market.
That's right.
Other people have to lose for you to win.
That's right.
In
Well
gambling.
said. Well
All right.
said.
Before we get away from this, let's talk about a lot of people will leave Alabama and go to other states like Mississippi to go to their casinos. How much money is really lost from one state to the other? I mean, can Alabama expect this big gain of money because now we'll have our own casinos?
Yeah. So as I said at the beginning of this conversation, the state of Alabama today, the citizens here are far better off financially. Their families are better from a public health standpoint and from a family dynamic standpoint. And the state's coffers themselves are all in a better place because you haven't had a lottery and casinos these last 25 years. And so the argument that somehow people are going out of state and you're losing money, this is the reality. We call that they're going out of state narrative. Like, it's a phony, recycled public relations strategy that national gambling interests have used in every single state in America to breathe artificial life into efforts to legalize casinos. So what's really happening is it's like you're losing $1 to save a penny. Right? So the idea that you're going to legalize casinos in Alabama or legalize a lottery in Alabama because you're losing some money, in theory, losing some money to Georgia and these other states, it's the equivalent of losing $1 to save a penny. The idea that somehow no one's going to Georgia 5 to 6 times a week to buy lottery tickets. No one's going to Mississippi 5 to 6 times a week to play casinos. Okay, you do that. You bring those things into those forms of predatory gambling into Alabama. Now people are doing that stuff every day. You've created a whole statewide network now of citizens who are habitual gamblers, citizens who were once small earners who were small savers. Now they're habitual gamblers, all as a government program if you do it. And it's a government program where the evidence is overwhelming that it's been an epic policy failure in every other state.
We are visiting with Les Bernal on this very special edition of Priority Talk, a series of segments talking about gambling in America and how it relates to Alabama. He is the national director of Stop Predatory Gambling, revealing the truth behind gambling operations. And we will continue this conversation in our next segment. We do hope you'll join us.